Hey there, it's Logan Crockett with Marketing for Normal People, and Apple is just about to hold a live stream event, which means tons of new products, but also tons of products being discontinued, including the Apple Watch Series 9. And that means not only is the product itself being discontinued, but so is the Apple Watch Series 9 website. At Marketing for Normal People, we teach anyone with passion and skills how to market their work, and there are lots of lessons that we can learn from Apple's marketing on their websites, and we recommend tons of Apple products for all kinds of marketing and creative reasons, and I also build websites for a living, and some of this is fun to look at. So before the site is officially taken offline, I wanted to do a last look at the Apple Watch Series 9 website for the Series 9 version of the Apple Watch. What did they do well? What could be improved? What can we learn from it? I'll give you my live commentary and reactions. Let's take a look. So here we are, we have the Apple Watch Series 9. And unlike, for instance, the AirPods Max page, the AirPods Max first generation page that I took a look at in another video, they are keeping the actual text and the logo, if you will, for the Apple Watch Series 9 very, very small. And they are relying on this feature call out: smarter, brighter, mightier. These are the three main reasons that it's like, hey, this is the Apple Watch for you. This is the reason to upgrade. And so they have that in a pretty solidly big font right here, but the actual text for Apple Watch Series 9 is much smaller. So if we scroll down here, we see an image, and this is just a stagnant image. If I refresh, we can see if there's anything fancy. Okay, there definitely is. I had this tab already open. But anyway, so we do get this cool animation, and then we get to see the, oh, okay. I don't know what was actually going on. That's interesting. So there was a little bit of a browser error with how that site was being rendered originally. Interesting. So it's supposed to work where there's an animation, and then we actually see the smarter, brighter, mightier right here. So this is actually a very, very clean hero section, just the top section of your page. And it's just the logo and the image. And then this actually overlays on top of it. And you'll notice too that the actual Apple Watch image gets more dim, so that when you scroll down, so that way this text can stand out more. All right, so we have these really nice, these gradient animations. And so it starts more pink, gets lighter. I'm scrolling down. You don't see me actively scrolling with my mouse, but I'm scrolling. And then I'm scrolling further and it gets pink. So that's all scroll animations. Great effect there. And then it has this subtle little fade away, and that is 100% linked to my mouse there. So that's all a nice scroll animation. And the actual Apple Watch image, it has a transform. It's getting smaller. And the Apple Watch Series 9 up here, that logo fades away. So, and as soon we immediately go into this section, which is just descriptive text, and it's fading in with this kind of like blooming out animation in a really cool way. And it also, I don't think it had, no, it does. It's also changing color. It's starting more a little bit, and it's subtle. It's a little more purple, and this is all scroll animation again. Basically, this is a text mask, most likely, where there's technically a background underneath that text. And so it's starting a little more purple, and then as you scroll down, it gets a little bit lighter. And then they have two little calls to action right here: watch the film and watch the event. Of course, that's not a buy call to action. Typically on a sales page, you have buy calls to action, but Apple knows that if you watch the film or watch the event, then you are likely to, that is a very, that event and that film is set up to make you want the Apple Watch, which makes you a lot more likely to buy. So that's a really good action to encourage the user to take. If we click on watch the event, there's actually an Apple event scheduled for today. And so it's not taking me to the correct Apple event, which is actually interesting. I mean, it's fine because today's literally the last day that these are even going to be normally on sale on their website. So I'm not going to dock them a bunch of points for that, but it is interesting that actually as of today, it's not taking you to the right event page. And then if we click watch the film, then that does take you to a film about the Apple Watch. I'm surprised that took so long to load because yeah, I have a fast internet connection, but that was interesting. All right, anyway, so when we have this little X up here to click, so it's not really a pop out, or a pop-up rather. I mean, it technically probably is, or functions like one, but it's not like light boxing or just kind of displaying on top of what's here. It's basically pulling up a separate page. It's not loading me into a different page, but it's like pulling up a whole separate basically it's designed as its own page. That's interesting. All right, and then we have this wonderful little scroll animation right here. Again, complete. Yeah, that's a full scroll animation. I have complete control. No, I don't. Okay, that's not a scroll animation. It looks like a scroll animation because of how it's moving, but actually, as soon as I hit a trigger point, it immediately bounces. So like I can do it barely, and there's the trigger point. So then it moves. But yeah, if I'm scrolling more quickly, it looks like just kind of a normal scroll animation. But that's a different kind of animation. That is, it's triggered by the scroll, but it's not. Each movement, each frame of it isn't dependent on the scroll. I know if I'm talking over anyone's head, I apologize. A lot of this is just really interesting to look at, but there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do just like this, and we teach a bunch of that kind of stuff, how to do some of these animations and fun things at Marketing for Normal People. So definitely check out marketingfornormalpeople.com and check out other content on the YouTube channel for how to do some of this kind of stuff. All right, the S9 chip, the SIP, the I forget actually off the top of my head what that stands for. It's something like system processor. I cannot remember what that stands for. Well, in all fairness, they are not showing me what it stands for right here, and so whether that's important for me as a consumer or not, I don't know. But it might be nice to even just click on it and have a little eye icon or just something, or just make it clickable so that way I can be like, okay, that's what that is. Anyway, powerful move forward. They're kind of using language along the lines of movement and energy, and the Apple Watch is very correlated to a fitness audience, and so that kind of language makes sense. Interesting that they have nothing on this side. It does kind of balance with this down here, but they actually have this left aligned, but on the right side of the page, which is an interesting move. This is on the left side of the page, then you have the image, and then this is on the right side, and then you go back to stuff on the left side. So it kind of balances, but typically you got to be real careful with that if you're trying that and you're newer to web design, because if you're not being really careful about that, they can look really awkward. Apple's doing it in a way that works, but that is unique. All right, gestures, magic at your fingertips, and okay, that is also, and so I guess this one. Okay, so yeah, so all of that is that's a triggered animation, not 100% synced with scroll, and then this is the same thing. It's an animation, just has that little jump up, that transforming up that you see there, and then this is nice. This little, with this graphic, they just have the hands barely in front of the T and the P, so you can still very, very clearly read the words. But that just looks really nice from a graphic perspective. Oftentimes, I mean, obviously, they have the pink stuff going on. Apple does really like to stick with white text a lot, but this blue really helps the eye, draw the eye to this, and it's like brings a lot of focus and attention to it. So that's an interesting move. They have this little replay here. So I don't know if I had already scrolled over some of this, but anyway, the idea is that when you first scroll down on here, I believe that's supposed to play. Let's try refreshing the page. And yeah, so anyway, when you would first get there, it would do that. Let's go higher and then scroll down. All right, here's that intro animation. Okay, let's go down a little bit. Okay, yeah. So that's how it's supposed to work. As you can see, depending on how the user's scrolling, that might not actually be how it works, because I didn't see the animation when I was scrolling down, and I was kind of going back and forth, but a lot of people are going to jump and stuff. So something to consider. Anyway, they have this little replay button. A lot of people are going to miss that. Obviously, you're not going to not buy an Apple Watch because you missed the replay, but it is a cool effect. And sometimes you can do that with different ways. They did this as a one-time animation, so I can scroll up and down and it's never going to repeat unless I hit this or refresh the entire page. So a one-time animation is an interesting move. Gestures. We got a little description on gestures, and then we got how it works with Apple Music. Now my scroll bar right over here, not sure how well you can see that, but it's moving. But this I wonder if that's supposed to be an animation. No. Okay. Interesting. Let me refresh here. And then, I'm just on Safari, right on a Mac. So, just using Apple's own technology to view their website. All right, yeah, so my scroll bar is scrolling a good bit, but nothing's changing. So that's a pretty long time to pause the user. There's different ways with sticky containers and stuff to do this kind of effect. where the user, you're scrolling, but it kind of stops the user. That's a little long to do that. Typically, you'd want an animation or something changing to anything changing, just to indicate that further stuff is happening. And then actually, yeah, maybe honestly, like this doesn't see what I would expect is I would expect this stuff and how this changes to come up fast. But actually, if you notice, I'm missing. It says stop a timer while something. I can't even read that text right there. And that's so interesting. Sometimes, when it comes to mobile responsiveness and just responsive websites in general, meaning how does your website look on multiple screen sizes, that can definitely get tricky with scroll animations and different scroll effects and things like that. So you've got to be careful. But yeah, I think that something's holding on a little too long. And then I'm just missing what's here. Now, I like what they're doing. It's like, okay, here's something about music, here's something about calls, and then they're changing the image to calls, and then and then they're trying to change the image to a timer. But yeah, I'm too far down the webpage for that. So even Apple, billions of dollars, and again, I'm using native Safari on a modern Mac, and that I assure you, that is not how they intended for that animation to work. So always test your animations. Anyway, so we have this. This gets a little, as you get down here, this gets a little brighter. The actual image that's kind of this illumination effect is getting a little bit brighter. This is also scrolling up a little bit. And this is, no, that's also a triggered animation. Okay. So they're not really doing parallax or a scroll animation. That's again a triggered animation where you get to a trigger point, and then that this watch is moving up a little bit. Okay, we need to move through this website. My goodness, there's a lot of content here. So they have this Siri animation, seriously capable. Apple does like their puns. They try to be a serious company in a lot of cases, but they also try to be fun, and so that works well. They're using the bold effect where they have it's not actually bold because it's just a different color. This is a lighter gray. Or a less white, if you will, and this is a full white, and so it makes it look kind of like a header to it, or like a bold call out, but really it's not bold. It's just a color. And then they're showing how you can use the Apple Watch to control your HomePod. All right, okay. This is great. This is a true. As far as I can tell, this is a true scroll animation. So every frame, everything that's going on here, see how like subtle I'm moving my mouse, and then I'm moving my scroll. I'm just scrolling right on my mouse here. But every frame of that I can control. But that is a complex animation there. They did a good job with that. There's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, it's even like twisting, and then it's twisting back, and it's kind of getting more condensed into the unit itself. Like all that energy is going inside the phone. It's really, really difficult to display in a where you can't put on the watch and see what it does. Like, how do you display what it does to the user? How do you get that across? And so they're doing a good job there. Anyway, okay, that moves real fast. I see what they're doing. So it's like, okay, like how close are you to the item? I feel like that moves, like if I'm just kind of scrolling through a page like normal, like that's pretty, like I'm missing it. I would find a way to slow that down a little bit. That would mean doing some advanced stuff to the scroll effects, but that's a little fast in my mind. But yeah, I like this where it fades in, so the descriptive text next to it. And again, there's nothing here. So like Apple is, they're not always doing traditional stuff when it comes to balance framing. But what they do works overall, but you just got to be careful with that. But anyway, so this fades in, and that's again a trigger point animation. And then, so you have the fade in, but then it actually stays. It doesn't fade out. A lot of times Apple use text that fades out. This is staying. All right, we're now getting down to section. This is a very, very black website, and on some of their other pages, they have other methods, but pretty much the entire, well, I guess until we get way lower, a lot of this website is black background. And so a lot of the sections, dividing sections up helps the user keep track of where they are. They're using a lot of these little borders, these gray borders. And so you have another one here to clearly show that you're in a new section. All right, we have this header for our watchOS 10. So that's the software. And then I wonder is that all that does? Okay, no. So once again, it's not quite interacting right when you're kind of jumping around the side. When you get to a certain spot, if it's trying to trigger something, it doesn't do it. So yeah, so that's a really cool animation there. But yeah, we didn't see that initially because I don't really know why. But yeah, you don't want to trigger that. I mean, I guess I had scrolled further down the page, but yeah, if someone scrolls really fast, then they might miss out on something like this. So gotta be careful of that kind of thing. Anyway, now we're getting into all the different kinds of color combinations and watch bands and all that good stuff. That just scrolled just a little bit. Interesting. I'm gonna refresh that again. Yeah, I guess it just scrolls over a little bit. A lot of times with this kind of animation where it's all like these smaller images that are horizontally aligned, a lot of times that'll like scroll fully back and forth, locked to your scroll or something like that. But in this case, they just had it move once and then it's done. And again, they're doing unusual stuff for balance. This is on the right side of the page. There's nothing on the left side here. That's unique. I don't think it looks terrible, but I also don't think it looks good. Like that to me, typically you just want to center this underneath here. Like that's what you traditionally want to do. I mean, it works partially just because these images look so good. But yeah, if this was a less really polished, good-looking website graphically, I think that this would look way out of place. Anyway, now we get to a white section. So it's very, very different. Like you can really tell you're in a different section, and that's a really cool animation. Once again, full scroll control. Every single thing here. And I don't know how they're doing this. This might be, if they turn these into SVG vector images, then that'd be a really efficient way to have that many images kind of stacking on top of each other. But yeah, that's a lot there. But yeah, every single frame of this, I have full control. And they're doing a little scale animation. So it fades in, it starts lighter, and then it gets darker. And gets bigger. Same actually. Well, so the Apple logo starts really big, gets small. Anyway, and then it stays consistent. And yeah, once again, we have a fade in. And it's scaling up. So the text is getting a little bit larger. And now we are down to just the standard green, in this case, Apple logo. All right, now, yeah. So instead of like kind of visually scrolling down the page, it's just animating in another section on scroll. So that I think that's a really nice advanced tactic to just, instead of watching the page move, you're just taking away an element. In this case, they're just fully fading that out. It's just a nice fade out. Yeah, and this is also a full scroll animation, so I have full control over this. And then the Apple logo goes, and then the text goes. And I like not syncing them together. I like that the Apple logo goes first and then the text. It's just subtle, but it makes it look a little bit more professional instead of having them both transition at the same time. And then you have carbon neutral come in, again, just subtly right before, and then you have the image right there of the Apple Watch. And all these buttons, they're actually changing these buttons because they're very clearly showing the user that this is a different section. They're really making you focus on the green. And so they have this white and green aesthetic down here where they had much more of a black. Really, they just use this black and kind of purpley pink and I guess the blue here. But yeah, down here, it's all about the white and the green. And yeah, looks good. But to that end, they also have the green in the logo. It's a logo, I guess. You can also suppose it's more of an icon. I do think that they use this icon almost as a logo to like signify certain things on certain products. But then they have this green button here, and they even have a green line here to divide the section. So that's interesting. And yeah, sometimes, if you don't want to change to a whole different background or something to divide sections, you can just use a line. Apple does it, you can too. Anyway, they have this left aligned section, and then once again, in a balance, since they're doing this over on the right, I've seen them do that with some of their other product pages. Down here, interesting. Again, I wonder if this is broken, but like, why is the whole thing over to the side? It looks a little better when you do that, but also like typically you'd want the buttons to be in the middle. That's so unique. If I scroll down, yeah, I mean, again, Apple can do what they want, but I don't know that I would personally do it that way. It just, a lot of times when you're looking through these sites, it's like, it's fine. You don't think about it a whole lot as a user, but like, if you're looking at it critically, it's like, that's a little interesting. I don't think it's hurting Apple's sales or anything like that. I'm just personally as a user, not even necessarily as a professional, but just as a user, I think that if this was just balanced a little more, where the images aren't all to one side and where the buttons maybe are centered, I think that could look a little bit better. Anyway, yeah, interesting. So anyway, you just have these cards here with information. You go down, you have this nice little parallax with this image kind of scrolling at a different rate than this image over here. This yellow band seems locked to the background, and the pink band seems to be moving at a bit of a different speed. So yeah, I think that's nice. But yeah, once again, the same kind of triggered animation right here for the header. I have a little description right here. Once again, not balanced in a typical way, but in this case it's on the left side. Same kind of thing down here. They're repeating it, and I do think it's good when you have elements like to kind of repeat them. That can just help bring some aesthetic of your site together. Interesting that when I get here, that's a little weird. Like, what's the point of clicking over there? Like, if you're on a smaller screen, that might make sense. But yeah, at this point, I see that I see the entire thing about let your wrist lead you. So clicking that final button doesn't help me on this screen size in any capacity. All right, we got this real solid motion blur to indicate motion, but there's no animation, no video. It's just all the motion is being understood through the motion blur of that graphic. We have more of our triggered animations for the text. So this is pretty simple. This has great balance because even though the text is on the left side, this is balanced really well relative to the actual graphic of this guy right here. And so yeah, he's more on the right of the image and the text is more on the left. So I think balance-wise, that works really well. Same kind of section down here. I think these animations are fun. Like, that draws the eye. That's like, oh, that's really cool. I guess they do stop at some point. I don't know if that was because I clicked over or if they just have a timeout. Anyway, there's a lot more stuff here. I do wonder, like, a lot of times these kinds of things are triggered on scroll rather than by buttons. I get, Apple's good at like, hey, like, let the user check out more if they want to check out more. And I think that can be a good strategy in a lot of cases. But I do think that there's a good chance that people are going to miss some of this stuff because a lot of people just aren't going to click these buttons. Anyway, we get down to this. I think the balance there is decent. This is centered. Once again, I wonder if it's actually supposed to have an animation. Let's see. No, okay, that's just an image. Okay, so yeah, interesting. So when I do click the button, these animations stop. I wish it wouldn't do that. I wish the animations would keep going. I feel like that's more fun. Maybe it feels distracting in Apple's mind, but if you did it to begin with, I would keep going with it. All right, more cards. Wow. So once you got to this to the white section, you get and also the white isn't just like their environmental stuff. We also have health, and then we have, I guess, connection and kind of communication, and then we get more into fitness. And so all this is white now, which is interesting to start the whole thing very, very black, and really have like a real point of transition where everything was white. Also, they didn't do any of these cards with the buttons in the black section at the top. That's only in the white section. So that's interesting. All right. So yeah, so we have these different features. Only 3 things right here. Yeah, and even right here, that's interesting. So like, there's 3 cards, but I only can click the button once, and I think that makes a lot more sense because I see the whole thing at this point. So yeah, the fact that I needed an extra button click up above, that was kind of pointless, is weird to me. All right, and then we get to our cards with just use AR, check out Apple Fitness Plus. You can get credit towards an Apple Watch, and then they have the Create Your Style Studio. And yeah, I don't think this is interactive in any way. Of course, it did move at first, but I think that you would click on create, and that probably, okay, that takes you to the actual sales page. And so right now, because Apple's about to have an event, that is down. I like that. I like the coloring around this button. It just clearly indicates, hey, this is a different button. And the idea is like you're choosing and swapping between different colors. And so I think that, that's just like, hey, to do something with color, click here, basically. I think that that's just a clever little way to differentiate that call to action button. And then we have our little comparison guide down below, which is very typical of an Apple site. And then all the footer information about all their claims and legal things to keep in mind. Anyway, So yeah, there's no menu other than specific things about the Apple Watch. So, at the very, very top, we get all the different things from Apple, but as soon as you're scrolling down, it's all just about the Apple Watch. So that is a final look at the Apple Watch Series 9 sales page website. If you would like to check out another final look at one of Apple's 2024 products, click right here. And as always, if you want my free marketing crash course where I cover the fundamentals of modern marketing that drive awareness, grow an audience, and get people to buy from you, plus some cool web design stuff, go to marketingfornormalpeople.com or click or scan right here. Okay, catch you later.